We're allowed. Good evening and welcome to our West Perth Council meeting for Monday, May the 15th. We'll call the meeting to order. Before we get into the actual meeting though, I would ask council and our guests, if they so wish, we'll take a moment of reflection. I would like to point out that Diane Chessel will not be with us tonight. Her grandfather died this past weekend, I believe, and which is also Rhonda Agatz's father, so who is the mayor of Perth East and also the warden. So when we have our moment of reflection, maybe we can keep those families in our thoughts. So we'll just bow our heads for a moment. Thank you. All right, we're going to confirm the agenda. There is an amendment to add 13.1, a closed session for labor relations to the agenda. I don't believe it's on here, is it there? Oh, but it's not in there. So the agenda is amended or will be amended tonight. So the recommendation is that the council municipality accept the agenda. I will add as amended and as it was circulated. So do we have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions with regards to the agenda? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Now we have a fairly large consent agenda and we're going to talk about this later on in the evening, but is there anything there that anybody would like a little more clarity on or would like pulled and dealt with separately? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up. Oh, maybe I did. Okay, Councillor Fournier.
There was a resolution regarding the oath of office, 4.5. Is that something that municipalities can change on their own behalf and change their own oath of office? No, that's a provincial thing.
It is a prescribed form, so it would be something in the province. So we would look to lobby the province on that if you wished. And I believe it's about is it not about removing the oath to the king? I believe. Oh, it's about adding. Okay.
And just one other quick question, if you don't mind. On 4.8, it was talking about the proposed provincial policy and specifically sections 2.6 and 4.3, which would change our control on development of agricultural lands, and also section 4.1, which would change municipal control over natural heritage. I was wondering if there's anything that yourself or Jeff could explain about that, because I don't know when I'll have time to quite get into the weeds about what that means for us.
Who wants to do the executive summary?
So there are changes coming in legislation, and of course these changes are out for review. We would anticipate this time, when the province indicates that they're going to put it out for a 60 or 90-day review, that they wait till the end of the review period before they pass the legislation. And we have not developed a position here at West Perth. We anticipate the county will be developing a position. Association of Municipalities of Ontario is developing a position. Ontario Federation of Agriculture is developing a position, and I could go on and on. I think we all agree that there are concerns for livestock agriculture with the increase in opportunities for creation of lots in rural areas. That will hopefully be reviewed as a part of the provincial policy statement proposal that was put out for review, although this government hasn't had a good record of listening to the feedback and changing. So I don't know if I should. There are other things, there are good things about the proposed changes to the provincial policy statement. The ones that concern us are the sort of the creation of lots and the threat to livestock agriculture because of minimum distance separation impacts and things like that. And you can have no worries that that is being conveyed and conveyed very loudly to the province through the review. And then the second one is the sort of apparent confusion with pushing development to serviced urban areas and trying to ensure compact urban form, and the sort of very contrary message that is sent by suggesting that rural development on private services is suddenly okay. And so again, I think there will be voices put to that which will reflect our concerns. Those are the two I'm going to highlight. If you have other specifics, I can speak to them.
Thank you very much. That gives me a good place to start looking into it as well. Thank you.
And I believe, Dean, is it our next county council meeting? We're going to get a bit of information with regards to what the county is going to present.
Yes, through you, your worship, the county planning department will be offering a presentation at the upcoming meeting Thursday of this week, which will provide a response to what's been proposed so far by the province with respect to the provincial planning statement.
Okay. Councillor Fournier, were you wanting any one of those pulled out and dealt with separately or supported, or?
It was more just looking for some information on what to be
Okay.
looking into. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what to read. There's an awful lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's good. So we got a mover and seconder, I believe, for that. Didn't we? Yes, we did. Murray and Alex. So unless there's any further questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And first time this has ever happened. We'll back up one and yeah, today. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with the agenda tonight? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, was it? Oh, okay, I thought we were. Okay, all right, okay, all right, all right.
The Leafs get knocked out of the playoffs, and the next thing you know, we're all confused up here. I'll try to do better.
It's called planting corn and soybeans.
I'm still struggling.
So at this time, we'll call the public meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. The public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, and I will ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of this public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to bylaw 100-1998, the zoning bylaw. Council will not make a decision at this public meeting, but will gather information and make a decision at a future regular council meeting. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, they are to provide their name, mailing address, and email to clerk@westperth.com. The person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of the bylaw.
Okay, as it was indicated earlier, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment application initiated by Doug Rome on behalf of 2063959 Ontario Inc. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Lot 22 Concession 9, 6476 Perth Line 44 of the Logan Ward of the municipality of West Perth. Can you confirm, Dan, how notices were sent?
Yeah, I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies prescribed by legislation. The sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the subject property on April 24, 2023.
23. No, he said 22. Did he say 23? Did you? Jeez. It's gonna be one of those nights. Okay, I'll now call upon John Vice, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council. So this zoning bylaw amendment is actually a condition of consent. The consent application was BO 8-23. The property is located in between the communities of Broadhagen and Bornholm. It is on the north side of Perth Line 44. Thank you. So the consent was conditionally approved on April 17th, 2023. And this consent produced a severed lot with frontage of 44 meters on Perth Line 44 and a lot area of approximately 1.2 acres. The retained farm lot, as you see on the right-hand side, has a frontage of approximately 363 meters squared along Perth Line 44 as well. And that has a lot area of approximately 102 acres. So the area outlined in yellow is proposed to be rezoned from the agricultural designation or the agricultural zone, sorry, to the A1 specific zone. And this is to allow a non-farm residential dwelling and to recognize a site specific, sorry, there's no site specific recognitions here. It's just essentially to go from agricultural to A1. And then the area outlined in red is proposed to be rezoned from the agricultural zone to A3, which is essentially to ensure that no residential dwellings or mobile homes can be placed on that retained farmland. So notice of public meeting was given in accordance to the Planning Act requirements on April 23rd, and then a formal recommendation will be provided at a later council date. There's been one inquiry that's come in essentially just to understand building permissions on the lot with no formal opposition or support offered. And then the UTRCA has offered that there's no objections from them on this rezoning application. I can take any questions or comments at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. So at this time, we'll get into the more formal aspect of the public meeting. Does the applicant or their agent wish to say anything at this time? Okay. Is there anybody present in support of this application that wishes to say anything? No. Is there anybody present in opposition to this application? Any general comments from anybody? And lastly, any questions from council with regards to this application? Okay, seeing no questions or no concerns, no hands up, I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment, notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The next item that we have is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment application initiated by Bob Haywood on behalf of William Consett. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Lot 27, Concession 10, Line 21 of the Hibbert Ward of the municipality of West Perth. I will ask Clerk Hobson to confirm that notices were sent.
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies prescribed by legislation. The sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the subject property on April 25th, 2023.
Okay, thanks. I will now call upon Jerica Gilbert, planning for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So, Jerica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie, and thank you, Council. Similar to the last application, this is a rezoning for surplus farm dwelling severance that happened last year, B15-22. The property in question is 7454 line 21. It is west of the community of Staffa, so pretty close to the County of Huron border. So section 2.3.4 of the provincial policy statement and section 5.6.3.1 of the Perth County official plan finds that in order to have a surplus farm dwelling severance, there needs to be a rezoning application to ensure that the retained farmland can have no residential uses or livestock facilities built, and that the severed residential parcel is zoned to be a severed residential parcel. So that is what we're doing here tonight. The severed lot will be about 1.4 acres and has about 9 meters of frontage on line 21. Meanwhile, the retained farmland will be 46.8 acres, or that's 18.9 hectares, with 123.9 meters of frontage on line 21. Now, something to note from this application, as you can see, the severed residential lot kind of bisects the farmland to the west. The landowner who currently owns this parcel actually owns the adjacent parcel. And it was part of a condition of consent that that little severed portion of farmland in the bottom corner there gets affixed to their adjacent parcel. So staff are supportive of this application. There's going to be a site-specific amendment to recognize the reduced lot frontage for the driveway. Normally in the rural zone for residential uses, the zoning bylaw asks for 30 meters. When we're assessing surplus farm dwelling severances, part of what we're looking for is how to protect the greatest number of tillable farmland. So recognizing the reduced lot frontage will enable that. There's also going to be a recognition of slightly less of the retained farmland than the bylaw permits. We're going from 22 hectares to 18.9, which is considered basically minor in nature. Yes, so that is the application before us tonight. I did not receive any comments from the public or any other agency. And I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have for this one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jerica. So I'm not aware of anybody in the audience either one way or the other, but is there anybody here representing the applicant or their agent that wishes to speak at this time? Is there anybody in support of this application? Anybody in opposition of this application? Anybody with any general comments? Any questions from council? Okay, if there is not, then I would make we'll close this public meeting at 7:18. Well, thanks, Jerica. Now, out of this, recommendation that I have is that the Council Municipality of West Perth approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment 15, 2022, submitted by Bob Haywood on behalf of William Consett for lands described as Lot 27, Concession 10, Line 21, Hibbert Ward, Municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Moved by Councilor O'Donnell, second by Councilor Phelps. Any comments? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. So we do have a delegation with us tonight. We have Brian Horner, General Manager of Sabo Bayfield Conservation Authority, and Mary Valise as well. And I would turn the floor over to you at this time, and you're going to give us all the good news, aren't you?
Well, we're going to try. Okay. But thank you, Mayor McKenzie, for having us. And I'd like to thank soon Daniel and Steve, our representative. I believe there was others that got us on the agenda tonight. So thank you for that. And as you've already said, in case you forgot, my name is Brian Horner. I'm the General Manager at Conservation Authority, and Mary Bailey's our, excuse me, our Healthy Watersheds Manager. So I'm just going to go through a few things, kind of the highlight or the overview. And then if you have any really tough questions on some of the programs in the draft agreement, that's why I have Mary here to answer all those tough ones. So we'll go from there. So these documents that you have, there's kind of three separate ones that we kind of put together. The first few pages is just a guide to the agreement. And I've been told I have control of this. So just although I guess it goes really quick. But on page 2 of it, we'll see on the bottom, it says category 1, 2, and 3 items. This is, backtrack. We're here kind of tonight to talk about this the draft cost apportionment agreement, because the province has made us, if you're not aware, that we have to distinguish our different programs between category 1, 2, and 3 items. Category 1 is what they determine as mandatory. Category 2, those are services, as you can see there, those are services that the municipality would have to enter in agreements. The municipality would want us to do those. And category 3 is the big one that we're here for. And those are the 4 different areas. These are programs and services that we at the Osama Bayfield have been doing for, 15, 20 years. But the province now says we should be going back to our mandatory, which was some 75 years ago. So now they want us to have, for these category 3s, we need to enter into these agreements in order for us to levy our member municipalities come 2024. Okay, it's not for 2023. So the financial considerations, if we go to on page 3, just a reminder, for the financial considerations for these agreements, in order for us to levy our member municipalities come 2024, we need to have these agreements in place by the end of this year. In a perfect world, we'll get to timing wise, we come into our budgeting process, and Mr. Harold will get into that later on in the year. We go our budgeting process come August or September, October. So in a perfect world, we'd like to have them by then, but if not, certainly by the end of the year, we need to have those. And I should say, in a very perfect world, we start our 5-year forecast come July, and we'd like to know whether we may not have all our municipal agreements signed by then. We hope to have verbal or discussions with senior staff of where we might be headed, just so we can be able to do that. So that's those agreements. One other part on this one I'd like to draw your attention to is on page 6, and if somebody has the ability to increase that in size, that'd be perfect. This agreement, this table here, it's a summary of our 2023 category 3 items. And the bottom line, the bottom number is about $204,000. That represents about 15% of our overall levy. And that 204 that's for those 4 different category 3 items that we saw previously. That's the total amount. The one thing I'd like to draw your attention to, that 204 might be the levy to our member municipalities. But if you see that very top line, it says total cost 1.263. So yes, for their member municipalities, we're asking $200,000 category 3 items. But with that 204, which I say is local dollars, we're able to leverage that another $1 million through other funding agencies. So I've always said before it was in front of you, it's still a pretty good bang for your buck. I was thinking Leafs. You see, West Perth total for 2023 is almost $11,000 for those 4 different programs. Total those. And so that's that table. The next few slides are the actual draft cost apportionment agreement. And this agreement is, we actually met with senior staff here at all our member municipalities, senior staff back last fall with this agreement or similar agreement. We asked for feedback. And what you have in front of you is a result of that feedback. There wasn't too many changes, but there were a few. One thing I will say, you may notice, it talks about the term of the agreement. We're proposing right now that we would enter into, the first year would be 5-year agreement, and after that it would be every 4. The reason for that would be once we get on side with the years, 4th year would get us into the middle of council term. So that would be, everybody's busy the first year, maybe a learning curve, but if you get into the middle one, then we have, and still every council would still have a kick at the can on the programs and services that we provide. Okay. And then the next part of this agreement, or attached to the cost portion agreement we're proposing, is this Schedule A for the 4 different services that you saw in the previous guide document. And these are numbers for each of the actual programs. This number one here, the very first one you see, that's just for year 2023. Those are the numbers you saw on that table 6. The combined one, the 1.26 total cost, and the West Perth apportionment of about 10, almost $11,000. So that's what that would number. And where it proposes, we haven't rolled it out. This schedule would be something that we would provide to our member municipalities each year as part of the budgeting process. So we're just asking for the cost apportioning agreement signed that it's, these are the services you agree to. When it comes to the actual cost of them, we would still be coming back to you annually with this number. And I should say everything before the Schedule A, reality, I believe, and Mr. Brick and Daniel can help me out. This is agreement very similar to what you've already signed with Maitland Valley last year for those agreements. Okay. So that's, Mary can talk about the other, some of the other programs or programs in there. The one, I will say this last one with the programs and services summary that we actually showed this with, when we met with senior staff. The one, it's got a little highlight on this box on the very last page of the categories again. And we've got some nice pie charts there that show province says category 1, or those are the mandatory items that we need doing. You'll notice that when it comes to funding, that's the smallest percentage, the provincial and federal funding. That's where they're funding the smallest portion of that. Those are our mandatory items. Okay. Well, that's my summary. We'll let Mary go into more detail.
All right, thanks, everyone. I just want to thank you very much, first of all, for having us tonight. I know that you folks have a lot on your agenda, everything from ambulances to zoos. And when environmental issues come up, it's where are we going with this one? I just want to distinguish the importance of watershed management as a way to manage environmental issues. So when we think about watersheds, we're thinking about everywhere is a watershed. And in this area, your area, it flows for our area into the Asaba, into the Bayfield rivers. That area there combined is about a 2,400 kilometer square area. The thing that we mostly are recognized for is perhaps that flood regulation and permitting for keeping folks out of the floodplain. Those are the category 1 types of programs. And that, as Brian talked about, leverage is a bulk of our budget, 85%. That particular area where we make recommendations or make suggestions for use of the landscape is about 20% of our landscape. And of course, everywhere is part of the watershed. And managing that everywhere comes down to voluntary stewardship programs, outreach, monitoring, finding funding to provide stewardship for private landowners, and other best practices across the landscape. So that those programs affect all of the watershed area. And those are the category 3 programs that Brian mentioned. And it is that which we are here tonight to talk about. And for West Perth, that $10,000 then is leveraged with the other municipal funds to apply for grants to get projects to do watershed management that not only benefit the flood and erosion downstream, water quality, biodiversity, adaptation to climate change effects. So it's the one tree, it kind of does multiple services at the end of the day. So I'm not sure if people had more questions about the category 1, 2, or 3, some of the financial pieces that Brian brought forward, but we're here to answer your questions and take away some of the mystery about some of these topics.
Okay, thank you. Questions for either Brian or Mary? Dean, go ahead.
Through you, your worship, thanks, Brian and Mary, for your presentation. When you developed, I guess, the framework for this agreement, I'm guessing you, as an organization, would have gone through a strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and challenges kind of exercise to determine what your category 1, 2, and 3 services should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. We did that. And I go back to the, as far as our, 15 years ago, with through our conservation strategy, went to our local, it was made up of, local members from the municipalities. And these were the, these items that we're doing now that are in category 4, these were the items that they determined we should be doing then. And each and every year when we come to our budgeting process, we look at how a project that we're thinking about, how it fits into that strategy each and every year. I don't know if that answers your question.
That does. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? One more, go ahead. Dave.
One more question. Asset management plans. The province has now mandated that conservation authorities must create and utilize an asset management plan. So how does that requirement correlate to the agreements being made with the member municipalities?
Now, sure, for the agreements, because of the asset management, as far as infrastructure, would be considered category 1 so for us to, if we have to levy for some of those, we wouldn't need these agreements. But you raised the point about the capital asset management plan. We have to have it by 2024, December 2024, we need to have it. And it's funny you asked that, because last week, I think we have all the pieces in different areas at our office, like in different policies. Do we have them all together in one? No, not yet. But that's certainly what we'll be putting together before the end of the, we have to have it by the end of December 2024. I see that probably by the end of this year that we'll have that in place.
Thank you.
Anybody else with a question? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So we do have a recommendation coming out of this here, and it is that the municipality of West Perth approve the cost apportionment agreement between the municipality of West Perth and the Sava Bayfield Conservation Authority, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Harold, and seconded by Councillor Fournier. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you don't have to hurry home to see a Leafs game, do you?
Maybe the Jays.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. The next item that we have with regards to planning is zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0223. And I believe John is maybe going to walk us through on this one.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council. So if you council remembers, this application was a public meeting on April 3rd, 2023. And at that public meeting, we had received multiple feedback from the public regarding this zoning bylaw amendment application. So this, I'll just give a relatively brief kind of rundown of the application, and I can answer any questions that pop up. But essentially, this zoning bylaw amendment application is essentially for a new lot that was created via consent B05-23, and that's for 34 Napier Street. So the developer has applied to change the R3 residential 3 zone, which is essentially a medium density zone on the subject lands, to an R4 with site specific R4-14 for the lands. And that's to move the zone to a more to a higher density, and essentially to the site specific nature is to recognize a reduced rear yard setback, as many of you will remember. So the property is designated residential in the Mitchell Ward Commission. the proposed change would allow the site to be developed at a higher density and will help bring rental units via townhouses, 3-unit townhouses onto the market for the Mitchell community. The density in the Mitchell Ward official plan is between 30 and 50 units per hectare for townhouse developments. This proposal is coming in just slightly under that. But based upon the low density nature of the neighborhood and the increased side yard, which you can see the house located at the center of the image, that is essentially a side yard. The developers increasing that to help essentially mitigate from any sort of compatibility issues. So that in conjunction with the lower density and the low density neighborhood provides an appropriate use for the lands. And we kind of just got into the density. So I wanted to go back to this figure again, just for organizational purposes and to highlight the fact that this rear yard setback is functionally services as more of an interior side yard setback. 7.5 meters is required for your rear yard setback in the West Perth zoning bylaw. However, due to the technical nature of this lot, the proposal allows for an increase in amenity space as well. The site-specific relief is considered appropriate in this case. So notice of public meeting was given according to Planning Act requirements on March 14th. Public meeting was held on April 3rd, and we received 2 formal comments, and I have included those comments in the council package. Additionally, to those 2 comments at the public meeting, there was 2 other individuals who provided comments verbally, but did not submit formal comments. So in total, there was 4 members of the public commenting on this application, 2 of which are within your council package, and 2 of which I summarized in the report. The planning department does recommend approval of ZBA 02-23, and I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions for John with regard to this? We had most of them at the public meeting. Steve?
Excuse me, sorry. On the drawing, where it's the side yard, which resembles a rear yard, what's the distance now? And what's the minimum?
Thank you very much. Thank you through you, Mayor McKenzie. It's a great question. It's a great comment. So the proposed would be 2.6 meters, where 7.5 meters is required. If this was functionally interior side yard, the requirement would be 4.5 meters.
No, the other one, the side
I
yard
see.
that resembles.
Apologies,
rear yard.
yes. So the side yard, they are over 10 meters away, where that would be 4.5 meters as a requirement. So they're about 6 meters. They're giving about 6 meters leeway on top of what's required.
Lots more in the back and a bit
Yeah.
less on the side.
Anybody else with any concerns or comments? Okay, don't see anything. So we do have a recommendation here, and it's that the Council of Municipality of West Perth approve zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 02-2023 for the lands described as Park Lot 33, Plan 339, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Deputy Mayor Kankowski. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you, John. Okay, moving on then. Under our chief building official, we have a report with the site plan control updates. So Bob, we'll let you take the floor and give us all the words on site plan control.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The
our site plan control bylaw was brought forward in 2020. This is an update or revision based on current legislative changes at provincial level, Bill 23 and Bill 109, for increased housing density. What it does is help streamline the site plan control process. Residential development previously triggered site plan control at anything greater than 2 units or a semi-detached development. Now with the current legislation, that will trigger at anything over 10 units in a single development. So a strip along a street or a small plan of condominium. Our site plan control bylaw wasn't affected in our ICI or industrial, commercial, or institutional development. So there's really no change there. The other big change is the removal of landscaping requirements in any site plan control development. It's pretty straightforward piece of legislation. Planning department has reviewed it. We feel very comfortable with this document moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Questions for Bob with regards to the site plan control? No, don't see any hands going up. So we do have a recommendation here that Council Municipality of West Perth receives the site plan control update information report. Mover and seconder for that. Councillor Phelps, Councillor O'Donnell, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you, Bob. The next item then is under the clerk's department, and we do have some tender results on a couple of municipal drains. So Dan, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Before council tonight are two separate tender results, one for Concept Municipal Drain and one for the Reynolds Municipal Drain. Both are accepting the lowest tender. They're within appropriate range from the engineer's assessment. The Concept is in Hibbert Ward and would have an approximate assessment of $63,000 towards the municipality. Reynolds is in Fullerton, and there was no assessment to the municipality. If there's any questions, I guess I'll say on either of them, I'll take them.
Okay, any questions with regards to those tenders? Okay, if not, we've got a couple of motions here to deal with. The first one is that Municipality of West Perth award the construction of the Concept Municipal Drain 2023 to the bid submission received by Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $160,210 excluding HST. Have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Foster and Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And the second recommendation is that the Municipality of West Perth award the construction of the Reynolds Municipal Drain 2023 to the bid submission received from Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $106,199 excluding HST. And a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. We have a couple items under correspondence. The first item is from the Association of the Ontario Road Supervisors for their annual trade show. And this year it's in Strathroy, I believe it's in. So that's coming up. I haven't got it in front of me. What's the date on that one? June the 7th and 8th. It's usually a fairly good show if you can take it in. And it moves around from county to county and municipality to municipality every year. The second one is the Perth Children's Water Festival, which is going to be held in the Lions Park in Mitchell. And I'm not sure if Hannah would like to put a plug in for this one or not, but I know she's quite involved with that one. Anybody have any questions with regards to this water festival? Okay, we'll carry on. So we have a recommendation that West Perth accept the correspondence as information. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell, all in favor. That is carried. Council reports, I don't have anything. Bylaws, we have 4 bylaws. First one is bylaw 24 to repeal an obsolete and redundant municipal bylaw. Bylaw 27 is to designate a site plan control area pursuant to section 41 of the Planning Act. 27 is a bylaw, Z 281 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 100 as an amendment for the property described as lot 27 concession 10, 7454 line 21 of the Hibbert Ward, the one that we dealt with earlier tonight. And the next bylaw is the zoning bylaw amendment 282, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 100, 1998, as amended for property described as Park Lot 33, Plan 339, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth. And the recommendation that we have is that the Municipality of West Perth give first and second readings to bylaw 27, zoning bylaw 281, zoning bylaw 282, this 15th day of May 2023. Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Duck. Any further discussion on those bylaws? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then the next recommendation is that Council Municipality of West Perth give third and final reading to bylaw 24, 27, zoning bylaw 281 and zoning bylaw 282, this 15th day of May. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Phelps, Councillor Duck, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. I don't have any notices of motion. Under other business, we were going to talk about the consent agenda under that, I guess, weren't we? Oh, all right. Well, okay. Police Week is May 19th or 14th, 20th. And they are having a barbecue on the 19th. They're also having coffee at Tim Hortons on one day and coffee at it's tomorrow at Tim Hortons.
Today
And
was McDonald's.
Today was
and
McDonald's.
tomorrow's
Okay.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah. So if you want to have coffee, you got one day left. And I assume you have to buy your own. The Earth Annual Meeting is on the 25th of May, and that's in Ingersoll at the Elmhurst Inn. And we can talk about that, about traveling down there. I'm not sure. I know Steve was going to go. I don't know if there's anybody else or not. We can talk about that after the meeting. The 28th, again, as we mentioned, is the Children's Water Festival. And June the 5th is our next regular council meeting. Again, I still don't have anything under notices of motion. Other business, the one item we have here is consent agenda. And Dan and I talked about this, and we seem to be getting a lot of resolutions over and over again. And mind you, they're just from different municipalities. And my proposal, if you would like to do that or agree with me, once we've had a resolution from a municipality and we've seen it and we've either supported it or haven't supported it, then that's it. We don't need another one, the same resolution coming from another municipality and you know, taking up space on our agenda. So we get it once, we make a decision whether we want to support it or not, and then that's the end of the story. It just saves reading all through the same resolutions week after week or month after month. So is everybody okay with that? And if there's something that, as Andrew pulled one from a previous meeting there a week or two ago, we can always still do that and add it to the agenda. That's not a problem. We have second thoughts on it. So if that's okay with you, that's what we'll do from now on. And we probably cut our consent agenda down by half at least. We do have a closed session. So the recommendation that we have is that municipality of West Perth proceed into a closed session at 7:50 PM for the purpose of addressing matters related to personal matters about identifiable individual, the Ontario Senior of the Year Award, position plan, procedure, criteria, and instruction to be applied to negotiations by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, Earth Power, and labor relations or employee negotiations, the executive committee minutes. So motion that we go into closed session at 7:51. Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're out of closed session now and we discussed the Senior of the Year Award. We also got an update on the Earth Annual Meeting coming up later this month. And we dealt with the Executive Committee minutes from back in April. And that pretty well concludes everything for tonight. Is there any other business that is coming before council? If not, the confirmatory bylaw is here. It's bylaw 28, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth. Be read a first and second time this 15th day of May. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Foster, Councillor O'Donnell, all those in favor? That is carried. And then bylaw 28 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Rose, Councillor Phelps, all in favor? That is carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn at 8:22. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by, take your pick, Councillor Foster. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.